The overall theme with the great exchange is that we give God our worst, he gives us his very best. So this week we're talking about from death to life. And it comes about because of the gospel passage where Jesus calls Lazarus out of the tomb. We're not talking about Lazarus. We're not talking about a tomb that took place 2,000 years ago. We're really focusing on your tomb and my tomb. We all have tombs. We all have a cave that we hide things in. Whether you know it or not, this is where we hide things, and that's the tomb. I want to identify what the tomb is, what might be in the tomb. Then I want to move towards what is it that keeps the stone there? How does the enemy, Satan, convince us to stay in that dark place? And how God is wanting us to move from the cave to out of the tomb, right, into light. So how do we, this great exchange of moving from death to life? We all have dreams, we all have passions, hobbies, callings, vocations. And if we really take a look at that, maybe somewhere in your life and in my life, someone discouraged us because they said, "Oh, you're not going to make enough money singing." Well, great. Well, that's why I like to do that, Dad. I like to do that. Yeah, but you're not going to make any money doing that at all. That passion gets stifled, doesn't it? Or, gosh, I wish I would have been a priest or a nun and ended up marrying this beautiful lady or this beautiful guy. Who knows what it is? But somewhere it gets stifled because of busyness, responsibilities, whatever it might be. Could be the same thing in a relationship. Sometimes our marriage grows cold. We just kind of grow apart from each other. You end up being Uber drivers, and you end up trying to make the money and doing the best you can to keep the family together. But you really spend no time with each other at all because by the end of the day, you're just wiped out. Or it could be a relationship that's gone astray or relatives that has caused some damage somewhere. Relationships are estranged. Maybe in prayer. I used to believe in miracles. I believed that God actually heard me, but now I just don't feel his presence. That becomes part of the tomb. We feel rejected or just isolated or just we're not feeling right. In the same way with joy, you used to be a happy person, and sometimes we've just lost that joy because of whatever. So this is the tomb that we hide things in. And I think the key here is Jesus doesn't resurrect what we refuse to admit that's dead. We have to admit that something's dead. And that's the key right here. If we don't admit something is dead, or something needs to be resurrected, he can't do it. So let's say you break your arm, but you don't admit it. You don't even go to the doctor. You just kind of fake it. Well, it'll never get healed. It'll never heal properly. You have to admit, I got something wrong here. And so on a spiritual level, it's the same way. We have to admit, am I angry, frustrated? Am I struggling? And we are afraid to even admit those things. I'm doing fine, I got this. But what happens? We shove it down to that tomb. We hide it. And then after a while, there's resentment. Because now I'm doing all the work and my husband's not doing anything. All he's doing is playing around. Or these kids don't even appreciate what I'm doing. Or if you're not expressing what's wrong, especially if you're not bringing that to the Lord, then he can't heal it. So when we begin to deny, we block the resurrection. That's the rock. We block God coming in. Jesus says, take away the stone. Why do we hide things in our cave? Because I'm afraid I don't want to have to deal with it because it hurts too much. And I don't want other people to know that I'm hurting. I'm ashamed. I'm scared. And so that's how Satan begins to keep us in that cave. And so he can't resurrect what we keep sealed. And that's one of his tactics. What's the difference between being resuscitated and the resurrection? To be resuscitated is just basically CPR. It's bringing you back to your old way. Your heart stops, we're going to start it up again. You don't have enough air in your lungs, we're going to put air in your lungs. You don't have enough iron, we're going to give you more blood. But we're resuscitating you, but there's no resurrection. You just go back to the old way, an old life. But to be resurrected is a new life. And we begin to step into something that never was there. It's brand new. We carry a power that we never had before. We change. It's called new life, the resurrected life. Now you're saying, well, what does that mean? What does that even look like? Here, we're going to see what a resurrected body does. Breathing testimony, a sign of hope, threats to darkness, and the proof of God's power. This is it. When you are resuscitated, you don't threaten darkness at all. And I don't either. But a resurrected body will threaten darkness. Think about Padre Pio. If you look at old films of Padre Pio, people were lined up outside the church. And when they opened those doors early in the morning, they were sprinting in. Old ladies, 80 years old, 90 years old, running over each other to get into the church, to be at the front pew right here. You ever seen those movies, those clips? Look them up. Why? Because Padre Pio was not resuscitated. He was resurrected. He had something. He carried a power that was beyond him. And Lazarus does the same thing. And God is inviting us into that greatness. A large crowd of Jews flocked to Bethany, not only to see Jesus, but specifically to see who? Lazarus. Because he's been raised from the dead. 4 days. There should have been a stench. But he walks out brand new. No one knew who Lazarus was. All of a sudden, everybody's flocking to him. Resuscitated? Oh no. Resurrected. He's new. There's something different. He carries a power that was never there before. And that's the resurrected body. If you find somebody raised from the dead, there's going to be hope. There's going to be possibilities. That goes back to the other weeks that we talked about. Blindness means we only see with our physical eyes. We only take in the facts and the figures. And when we do that, life becomes overwhelming. But when we see with God's vision, all of a sudden, we're seeing God working in the world. We see what we look like in God's hands. We see there's a purpose, that God is part of the plan, that he's working underneath all the challenges. So all of a sudden, what seemed to be impossible becomes possible because we're not overwhelmed with our own eyes. We see it with God's vision. And so we exchange the blindness for his vision. It gives us hope. It makes things possible again. And we walk around different. And that's what a resurrected body does. That we have this new life within us, that things begin to change. The chief priest plotted to kill Lazarus. It was dangerous. He was changing people's hearts and minds, rethinking what was possible, making him a targeted witness. He threatened darkness. Satan was scared to death. If you're not being chased by Satan, that means you're not even a threat. And he's just letting you fall off the cliff because he doesn't have to worry about you because you're drowning yourself. And then many Jews were turning away and believing in Jesus because of Lazarus, proof of Jesus' power. A resuscitated life doesn't threaten darkness. It doesn't give hope. It reminds us that we're just ordinary. But if we're resurrected, we have this new life within us, things begin to change. What does the enemy do? How does he keep us in the tomb? The lie feels believable because it attaches itself to our wounds. Satan is the prince of lies. And all he does, he never tells the truth. He only gives you a lie. And why does that lie become believable? Because we're already hurting. So it becomes believable and we accept it. He magnifies it. If you're insecure already, you're already hurt, aren't you? You're insecure about something. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about insecurity. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This is kind of dangerous. You shouldn't go out by yourself. You shouldn't drive. Oh no, you got to be careful. You got to stay home. And you start to believe all this. If you're insecure about your past, Satan whispers, see, you're still the same person. All the insecurities, can you imagine? And he keeps hounding you and hounding you. If you're struggling in your marriage, Satan whispers, there's no hope. Might as well leave her. He's worthless. They don't make enough money. He's lazy. Satan captures us in our already insecurities, our weaknesses, and he just piles it on. That's what keeps us in the tomb. That's what keeps us dead. That's what keeps us from being resurrected. That's what keeps us from greatness. If you've tried to break a habit and failed, Satan will whisper, why? You're going to fail again? Go ahead and swipe. Go ahead and take a look at that picture again. Oh, there's more. How about this? This is how he works. He works in periods, but God works in commas. If we know the tactic of the enemy, then we can begin to fight. Remember me talking about fighting? Ashes to mercy? Ashes, that we're fighters. That sin doesn't get the last word. That shame doesn't give us our identity. And that's what those ashes were about. That we fight against sin. And that shame doesn't identify who we are. But God's grace does. That he calls you and I by name. He's chosen you. All this is the great exchange. So that we move from death to life. Satan will say, this is the end. This is final. This is who you are. Give it up. You can't do any more. You can't do any better. But Jesus works with commas. This happened. Oh, thanks. Did you hear the hope in there? It's not over. Did you hear the possibility? You fell. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I can. You're hurting. Oh, but I can heal you. The enemy says, it's too late. Jesus says, the enemy says, nothing can change. Jesus says, just when you say that, when we play it out, all of a sudden there's a spirit of darkness that vanishes, that begins to disintegrate. And we move from that cave, that death, to new life. If you're honest, you will say you feel that. And it's real. And that's the invitation. Jesus is outside the tomb. And the first thing he had to do was roll that stone away. We create our own tombs. Not on purpose, but unfortunately, we drift into them. And that's where Satan begins to attack us. We drift into despair, discouragement, unhealthy patterns, emotional shutdown, spiritual apathy, and hopelessness. We just naturally move there. And then he capitalizes on that. So we drift into these tombs. And Satan, all he has to do is not get rid of your faith. He just needs to convince you to stay in that darkness and not come out. And why wouldn't we come out? Shame for grace. Oh, we talked about that. Blindness for vision. What about that stupid, empty well that we like to go and drink from rather than living water? And this is how Satan works. And this is the great exchange, death for life. Jesus calls us out of death into his life. So he's speaking into your deafness, into my deafness, into my brokenness. And he calls us forth. But it's a choice. The addiction, and Jesus says, you think you'll never break it? The bitterness says, fear says, the shame says, the numbness says, you think it's permanent? The disappointment says, you think. And Satan says, yeah, keep thinking, because you can't break the addiction. It's impossible. You can't do it. But Jesus says, yes, you can. Yes, you can. With me, all things are possible. So don't look at the blindness. Look at what I have done, can do, and will do, because my promise is true. Oh, that sounds like another exchange. We want things that are guaranteed, that are clear, that we can control. But God says, my promise is enough. My presence is enough. My word is enough. Remember me talking about coming out of the boat? Peter walking out of the boat? If we do our homework every single week, you'll be surprised how we can exchange our worst for God's very best. But I hope this helps you to realize we all have a tomb, and we all make a choice either to stay in it or to come out. But it's possible to come out, but Satan wants you in it. Look at your own life. What's the dream or relationships or hope that has died? What part of your heart has shut down? What sin pattern feels unbreakable? What prayer life went silent? And what joy has disappeared? Believe it or not, that's what's in the tomb. Let Jesus speak into those areas. The most important part is the last two sentences. Resurrection doesn't begin with perfection. That's Satan. You got to have it all together before you even make a move. That's called control. That's called not trusting. That's called self-reliance. And that's called being in Satan's camp. And when you and I are in his camp, there's no winning. The odds are stacked against us. It begins with permission. Give God permission to enter into your darkest, deepest places, to make that great exchange from darkness to life. Don't be afraid. What keeps people from going to confession? Father Josh and I have been hearing confessions after every single Mass, all through Lent and through Advent. Why are people afraid to come to confession? They're ashamed. God can't accept me. I've been away too long. 60 years, 50 years. I've cheated. I've got a beautiful family and I'm stuck on pornography. I'm ashamed to even go in. He can't forgive this. That's not our identity. We give permission to enter. What God did on the cross was for you and for me, not to keep us in a tomb, but to bring us out of that tomb. Now I'm preaching, but it's important. You're worth more than 5 minutes. You're worth more than 10 minutes. And if I had a video, I would have shown you the video. You're worth it. You're so worth it. The King died for me. Who am I to be a priest? To say the words and bring Christ into the bread, into the wine. To be able to forgive sins and be at that front seat to do that? To be able to baptize and forgive sins? Who's worthy of that? He makes you worthy. He makes me worthy. Come out of your tomb. Walk upright. And let God untie what keeps you in prison so you can be a better father, a better son, a better daughter, more thoughtful daughter, a better wife, a better mother. The attack is on the family. The attack is on us. Know the enemy's tactics. If not, we stay in the tomb and we're dead. Amen? Stay alive. Come and receive Jesus in the Eucharist. He's entering into your temple. He's entering into your tomb. Give him permission to move some furniture around. Amen? Amen. Good job. All right. Thank you so much for listening.